r/nosleep. Posted by you/superfan1. They come when it rains. It's been raining on and off for the past week. That tends to happen a lot when you live in the south during the summer months. It was last Wednesday, around 7-ish, when it started to drizzle. Half of the sun had already disappeared from the sky when the dark ominous clouds took over the dark pinkish, almost dark purple horizon. I was sitting out on my porch reading a book in my wicker rocking chair. I very much enjoy the rainy weather that comes with this time of year. I just find the soft drip drops of the rain pitter-pattering on the ground below comforting. I was sitting there gently rocking in my chair, nose deep into my young adult fantasy romance novel, when I noticed that the world around me had gone silent. The sweet bird song and the sound of the branches swaying up and down as the little squirrels traveled along then ceased to exist. Curious, I re-emerged into reality and took a peek in front of my yard. I lived atop a rather steep hill in a rather large house for just myself living there. I was located by a main road that went in and out of the tiny town I inhabited. My only neighbor for about 1.5 miles was the small but lush green woods that were right across the street from my house. Since it was dusk, there wasn't much light, and it didn't help that there were dark gray storm clouds above my head either, but I swear I could make out the shape of a person just a few yards from the tree line. I couldn't make out any defining details, and for a second I thought I might just be seeing things. But the sheer darkness of the person's silhouette, the darkest shade of black I've ever seen, contrasted vastly to the dullish gray that surrounded it and convinced me otherwise. Freaked out, I quickly got up and out of my rocking chair and straight into the house, locking the door behind me as I entered. After a quick sweep of my estate making sure all the windows and doors were locked, I felt relatively safe again. My bedroom window faced onto the street, so I snuck a glance to see if the person was still there. By now it was dark outside, and without any light I couldn't even see down to the road. With sudden flash of lightning, the person's silhouette was enlightened. A loud crack and boom of thunder sounded seconds later. The storm had picked up and rain was pelting against the roof and windows of my home. The singular street light hummed to life, illuminating the figure permanently. It was closer to my house now, practically in the middle of the road. I'm almost 100% sure it was facing my house. They looked completely dry considering the heavy rain falling down from the heavens. Another flash of lightning caressed the sky and was followed by another powerful crack of thunder. The ambience of the storm just made my whole situation 10 times creepier. I decided that if I heard any suspicious noises from directly outside my house, I would call the authorities. Although it was terrifying to see, the figure wasn't really harming me, besides being nightmare fuel, so I couldn't do much about it. I left the window and crawled into bed with my book. I began to pick up where I left off, but straining my ears for any suspicious sounds. Eventually, though, I fell asleep. I awoke the next morning to birds chirping and golden rays of sunshine shining directly into my eyes. The events of last night caused me to go to my window first thing. All I saw was a small car driving past and the same tree line that had greeted me every morning since the day I moved in. After a cup of coffee, I decided to look around my property for footprints or anything that could indicate a possible crime was almost committed. Call me paranoid, but that person could have been a robber, or even worse yet, an escaped convict. I didn't live by any prisons, but it was still a possibility, in my mind anyway. The rest of the day went as any other. I ate breakfast, tidied up the house, and by the time that was done it was time for dinner. As I finished cleaning the kitchen after my meal, I could see the storm cloud rolling in from the window that overlooked my porch from the kitchen sink. It was going to be another rainy night, and I was elated. About an hour later it began to rain again. I thought nothing of it as I sat down to catch up on some TV shows. Normally the rain showers would last 30 minutes to an hour, but by the time 2 hours had passed it was still raining outside. The day was extra humid than normal, and I've been in several hour showers before, so, yet again I chalked it up to good old Mother Nature. I decided to take a peek out of my bedroom window. Either out of paranoia or curiosity, or just because I knew deep down in my gut. There they were. Under the street lamp, 3 figures this time. One was in front and 2 behind the first one, equidistant to each other. All looking like carbon copies of the first one. I watched for hours as they just stood there. I don't know who they were or what they wanted, and it freaked me the fuck out. Eventually I got agitated and stormed out onto my covered porch. "What the hell do you want?" I yelled at the figures. No response. "Why are you here? If you don't leave I'm going to call the cops." Again silence. I stormed back inside. Comically, as I slammed the door, a loud thunderous boom shook my house as a light blue streak lit up the sky. I tried to call the police, but my phone line was down. I could have gone outside to my car, but my gut told me not to go near those things. I remembered that they were gone this morning, so all I could hope to do in the moment was wait. I awoke to gray storm clouds. It was still raining, and those things were still out there, taunting me, beckoning me. I turned to the news channel. At this point it would have been raining for 15 hours. Absolutely nothing about the continuous rain. And it continued to rain. It's been raining for a week straight. I'm trapped in my home. Every single fiber of my being is telling me not to go out there. Because they're still there. Even in the middle of the day, when visibility is best, they're only black bodies are there glaring at me menacingly. I've concluded they are some kind of shadow creatures with nefarious intent. They keep coming. Multiplying. I think there is at least 100 of them out there by now. They keep coming closer. The first one from the first night is at my porch steps, mere feet away from the safety of inside. I stare into the nothingness that is its face every time I look the window on my door. The only thing between us is the four walls of my house. They're so close yet so far. They keep calling to me even though they don't posses any mouths. They yearn for me to go out there to them. They beg me to join them. They are compelling me and convincing me to leave my humble abode. I think after I'm done writing this, I'm going to go out there. Posted by you/SpanSuperFan1. Reverse Pinocchio. I found myself in a position most teenage boys do when the death of summer approaches and the new school year begins. Bored, hot, and dreading going back to school. School was going to start again in 4 days and I would start my last year of high school. Being more of the shy and introverted type, I cruised the last 3 years by myself, a shadow unseen in the never-ending sea of sweaty hormonal teens. Brady had attached himself to my hip in the middle of sophomore year, and in some ways I was grateful for it and others I resented him for it. Brady is a bigger guy compared to me. Him being almost 7 foot and muscular and me being barely 6 foot and skinny as a toothpick. But he was always hanging around me and making me feel included. Sure, the social anxiety on my part didn't help, but it's the effort that counts in the end. If I hadn't been decent in algebra, then maybe my teacher would have never have forced me to tutor him. Brady would never have come to my house, and we'd never have become friends. I'd have been just another blurred face in the background to him. Of course, that's not how these stories turn out on here, do they? It was midday when Brady called me. The pesky vibrations and familiar ringtone woke me up from my sleep. Hello? I muffled out with a yawn and quick rub of my eyes. You know how you're always asking me to take you camping? Brady's deep voice asked from the other side of the phone. I quipped back annoyed, dude, I've never been camping in my life and I never want to. He dismissed my comment and continued, well, I got my stuff set up in the back of my car and we're going to do one last fun thing before school starts again. I'ma be by your house in like an hour, so pack 3 days worth of clothes. The call then disconnected. I groaned and got out of bed, searching the house for the nearest parental figure. I found my mom reading a book on the porch swing put back. Hey mom, Brady wants to take me camping for a few days, I mumbled tiredly, hoping she'd take the hint. Alright Michael, but make sure to spray a lot of bug spray on yourself and be back early Sunday so you can make sure all your stuff is ready for school. Have fun, pumpkin, she said with a genuine smile on her face. I couldn't resist letting that face down. I was doomed to go on a trip I didn't want to go on. It's funny because I always seemed to be dragged along on Brady's high school shenanigans. Deep down I knew I would enjoy them though. An hour had passed and I heard the horn of Brady's car honk signaling it was time to go. I grabbed my half-ass's survival pack and put one strap around my shoulder to look edgy and made my way out the door, after saying goodbye to my mother of course. So where exactly are you taking me? I asked as we took off down my street. We're going to Seneca Camping Grounds. Going to be some real shit survivalists for the next few days, Brady said excitedly. As long as I'm not eaten alive, I guess this should be fun, I said with my palm on half my face as I gazed at the passing landscape. After an hour drive and listening to Brady's shitty taste in country music, we were at the campgrounds. A hearty dose of bug repellent and I was ready to go. After chugging a beer we started setting up the tent, which with Brady's expertise didn't take too long. I was then given the task to find as much firewood as I could and bring it back to camp. I didn't stray too far though, because even a dimwit like me knows that it's easy to get tossed and turned around in the forest. I returned and the fire we started was pretty big, not too big to burn the forest down but big enough to keep the mosquitoes and critters at bay. We grilled some hot dogs on a stick, ate baked beans out of cans like they do in Western and apocalypse movies, and drank some more beer. The authentic camping experience. The next 2.5 days were pretty nice. We talked, hiked to a waterfall, and just enjoyed the great outdoors. I was feeling pretty exhausted by the end and was ready to go home back to air conditioning and a nice warm shower. Before we left, however, Brady kept pushing me to go on one last hike with him. Brady had gone mad with hiking fever. Almost half the time we spent camping was hiking. It was like he was searching for something. What that was I had no clue, but his aura radiated a sense of desperation of some sorts. I couldn't really say no to the guy. I mean, he's a head and a half taller than me and is twice my size. He could turn me into sashimi if he wanted and nobody would be none the wiser. With guys like Brady you don't say no. Of course I made it my mission to annoy the hell out of him though. I mean, what are best buds for? If he was going to drag my ass halfway to Timbuktu, then the least I could do was make him regret bringing me along in the first place. Where the hell are we even going? I asked with a loud sigh. It's so fucking hot my skin is melting off my bones. I played with a large walking stick I had picked up a while back. Will you shut up already? We're almost there, he snapped at me. Where is there exactly? I questioned with air quotes. I don't know, okay? He said, turning around to face me. His face was as red as a baboon's butt. I'm assuming it was a cocktail of embarrassment and heat exhaustion. You're telling me we're lost in the middle of the goddamn forest? I yelled in anger. You dragged my ass out here in sweltering summer heat, where everything wanna eat me alive, and you're telling me we're fucking lost. I threw my walking stick and stormed off. Yeah, in hindsight that probably wasn't the smartest move on my part, but when it feels like you're roasting in the armpits of hell you get agitated and stupid quickly. I could hear Brady chasing behind after me. I didn't care though, I needed my diva moment. That moment didn't last very long as the tip of my foot got caught on a large hidden root on the forest floor and I face planted head first into some more tree roots. Holy shit. I heard Brady exclaim. Getting up and seeing stars, I saw him admiring the tree of the roots I had just tripped on. Yeah, it's no big deal, I just face planted hard and could have a concussion, but yeah, admire the damn tree. I'm not butthurt at all. Thanks for the help, jackass. I muttered under my breath as I used the tree trunk to hoist myself back up to my feet. I rubbed the dirt and some bug carcass I had crushed off my shoes, shorts, and legs. Brady was lost in his own train of though. I soon saw why. In the middle of the trunk there was a little shelf of sorts carved into the middle of the tree. In the middle of the shelf was a small wooden box with a little golden lock on the front. The box looked in good condition too. Brady came barreling at me and embraced me on one big sweaty, stinky, bear hug. You did it, Michael. You found it. He cheered, jumping up and down. I rubbed my sore nose and then my eyes and forehead. That's great and all, bud, but you led me out here on a treasure hunt? I asked, annoyed. Yup. We had quite the adventure in this here. This is our prize, he said, grabbing the wooden box and tucking it under his arm. Well, what is it? What's in the box? I inquired. You'll see, he said in a sing-song voice. He had a big old goofy grin slapped on in the middle of his face. He then looked up at the canopy and announced, it's high time we get out of here, huh? Let's find our way back now. He then started to lead back from where we had came from. It's a miracle we made it back to camp. It didn't take too long either, about an hour and a half I'd say. After we finished packing our things I downed another beer to cope with the weirdness that had been the last few hours. The whole way home Brady had his treasure sitting there on his lap. It was around 4 in the afternoon when we arrived back at my house. Brady had given me the small box and told me keep it for a few days and we'd open it another day. I took it, shrugged, and staggered back into my house, in desperate need of a shower and ready to relax for the final hours of summer. I was curious and wanted to sneak a peek in the box. I tried to just pry the thing open with my bare hands, all that resulted in was a splinter though. I did a delicate surgery with some nail clippers and got the sucker out. I then resorted to looking up lock-picking videos. After watching 5 minutes of a 15-minute YouTube video, I considered myself a lockpick master and got to work. Eventually the lid popped open and I found the contents inside. It was a wooden doll with no features. Just a head connected with a joint to a torso shape with little arms and legs connected with joints to the torso. It looked like one of those tiny pose dolls artists use. The wood was smooth, slick, and shiny. I can't believe Brady went nuts for a tiny and useless wooden doll. I tossed it back in its box, placed it on my desk, and got my stuff ready for school. I eventually fell asleep to a YouTube video at some point in the night. I had the weirdest dream. I was back in the forest at the tree where I tripped and we found the doll. The box was open and empty and back on its little tree shelf. I looked around and saw a naked guy standing and staring at me. I can't remember the details of his face, all I know is that there was this random guy staring at me in the middle of the woods. I was freaked the fuck out and then I realized I must have been dreaming, so I forced myself to wake up. Oh, I woke up alright, to a dark silhouette in the front of my desk facing me. It was still dark out, but there were hints of dark blue, which means it must have been sometime in the early morning. I tried to move but couldn't, all I could do was blink. I realized I was having sleep paralysis at this point. The figure and I had an intense staring contest until it eventually walked over towards my window and leapt out of it. I eventually drifted back off the sleep. My damn alarm for school woke me up. I felt like shit. My eyes were heavy and my left foot had fallen asleep. It felt like a combination of TV static and a million tiny pins pricking my foot. What a fan-fucking-tastic way to start off my day. I looked out my window and it was much brighter out now, but I noticed a slight breeze flowing into my curtains. The room was a little chilly. My memory of the vivid dream and sleep paralysis episode rushed back into my mind like a semi into oncoming traffic. I was a little creeped out, but just chalked it up to me opening the window to let some of the pent-up heat out of my room and fell asleep before I could close it. I got up and got ready for the day. I was hoping that me walking around and getting ready would help wake my foot up, but no dice. So alas, I went to school with the most uncomfortable feeling in my foot. The day went as any other first day would. I went to my new classes and did some icebreaker activities and got new syllabuses and all that crap. Brady and I had physics and math together, plus we shared the same lunch period, so that was nice. I told Brady about my weird dream and the sleep paralysis thing, and he told me, "You listen to so much horror crap, it's to be expected." He then chuckled, "Man, what box? You probably dreamed that up and thought it was real." What? This man dragged me through the woods for this dumb box and he is saying that never happened? There's no way I hallucinated or dreamt that up. I was about to go off on Brady, he was obviously joking, right? But the weirdest thing happened before I could. This cute little 5-foot-something brunette just came up and kissed Brady. I was in utter shock, and so was Brady. The two had a little make-out sesh in the middle of lunch, and then she just walked away after putting her number in his phone. What the hell was that all about? I asked with my jaw hanging to the ground. Brady just blushed and excused himself to the bathroom. A little bulge could be seen through his jeans. Not wanting to think about that, I just continued to eat my lunch like nothing was wrong. I stomped my foot on the ground a few times to see if the strange sensation would dissipate, but I was only met with a more sharp and intense stabbing pain. I got through the rest of the day without any more weird shit happening and collapsed onto my comfy bed the second I returned home. After getting a snack and lounging around for a bit, I decided to get the little homework I was assigned done. The static was still there and my foot was cold, so I put a sock on. My foot looked like it always did, so I couldn't figure out what the hell was wrong with it. Maybe I pinched a nerve while I was sleeping or something, I thought. My eyes then gazed upon the wooden box from the previous day's adventure. I knew it. I knew it happened and was for real. I went to check on the doll, however all that greeted me was an empty box. Great. I brought a haunted as fuck box into my house and now a demon doll is running around my house coming to kill me. I fucking panicked. Brady telling me the box wasn't real had completely left my mind. I searched high and low in my entire room, then my entire house, and couldn't find the thing. I then remembered the open window and thanked whatever fucking god there was. The fucker left my house and my window was closed so it can haunt somebody fucking else. I opened the window and threw the box out too, just to be sure. Feeling reassured, I chillaxed and eventually fell asleep. I had the same vivid dream as the night before, except it was me instead of the person I saw. And then the box showed the same wooden doll, yet it felt different to the one from before. I woke up once again to my alarm telling me to get up for school. The pins and needles feeling had gone away and my foot felt normal again, but it was just a bit stiff. I took the covers off and my eyes opened wide with terror. I let out an ear-piercing scream. "What's wrong, Michael?" My mother shouted from her room. It's nothing, Mom. Just a spider. I killed it, so I'm all good now," I yelled back. My mother returned a satisfactory grunt. However, everything was not good. Not good. At all. My foot was made out of wood. You heard me correctly, wood. There was even a smooth wooden grain where my skin used to be. My toes had morphed together, leaving just a foot-esque shape. I lugged my foot on the bed and felt it. There was absolutely no feeling in my foot whatsoever. I knocked on it and a typical echo sounded back. I went on autopilot, but limping because I couldn't move my foot at all. I got dressed, put socks on, and attempted to shove my wooden appendage into a shoe. It fit, thankfully, and I tied it extra tight to make sure it wouldn't fall off. Of course I didn't want to go to school. I wanted to panic, and more importantly I wanted to beat the shit out of Brady. He obviously knew something, so that was one reason I needed to go to school. Another reason is, how do you explain to your parents that your once beautiful fleshy foot is now a hunk of wood? Before I left my room I saw that fucking wooden box back on my desk. Brady wasn't in algebra. In fact, the algebra teacher wasn't even there. Half of the girls in class weren't either. I was pissed because I needed to get an explanation from him ASAP. It was right before the lunch bell rang that I saw that from about an inch above my ankle down was wood. It was spreading. I dashed the second the lunch bell rang and I patrolled the hallways looking for Brady. I knew the fucker was here. I saw his car in the parking lot. I ignored the weird stares I was getting from my limp as I saw my algebra teacher and a wild line of girls leave the girls' bathroom. I had a hunch and followed it. I stormed into the bathroom, the door swinging back and forth with vigor. I quickly locked it. There Brady was washing his face in the sink, his pants halfway up his waist and a jumble of messy hair adorned his head. "What the fuck is this?" I yelled, taking my shoe and sock off, showing my wooden foot. A few more inches of skin had now turned to wood. "Listen, Michael." He started to explain, "I needed someone nobody would miss." He sucked some air between his teeth. "What does that mean?" I said, throwing my shoe at him. "It was an urban legend, man. I didn't think it was real, but somebody contacted me on a dark web chat room. He told me where the box was." I pried, "What urban legend?" "Somewhere in the woods near Seneca campgrounds there's a box in a tree, inside is a wooden doll, and if you open the box the previous sacrifice will turn back to normal and has the power to grant you a wish. I knew you would be a perfect sacrifice. No friends, average grades. People won't miss you, hell maybe they would have thought you ran away or something. The point is after the guy left your window I told him my wish, and in exchange you would become the next wooden doll." I couldn't believe my ears. "So you sacrificed me to some wood demon for a wish? You used me? Our friendship wasn't even real? What the hell did you even wish for?" I screamed. I felt betrayed, tears welled up in my eyes. He looked down at his crotch. "I wished that all the girls would want to have sex with me because of." He gestured to his member. I started to chuckle. "You wanted a bigger dick? That's just fucking great." I laughed harder and harder, until it hurt to breathe. I heard him mumble, "I've never had sex before now." That set me off. I charged towards him, but an invisible barrier stopped me. He was untouchable, I couldn't lay a hand on his neck. He just looked at me with a cocky-ass smile on his face. I ran home. Fuck school, I wouldn't be able to go back anyway. It's spreading faster, my whole lower half was wood by the time I reached home. I've had to waddle to my room because I can't move my legs. I fucking fell trying to slide onto my bed. I'm writing this from the floor. These are my last words. It's spreading to my intestines, I won't be able to type soon. Or breathe. It's spreading to my fingertips. Peleas, if you find a Woden bee box in the woods, open it and Mackie a wheeze.